the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast with your host, Jackie Pilosoff.
No one should have to go through a divorce feeling alone and isolated. The Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast is a production of Divorced Girl Smiling, where every show is 30 minutes aimed to empower you, help you feel validated and understood, and connect you with some of the best divorce professionals in the industry. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and start smiling as you join us right now for the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found and always at divorcedgirlsmiling.com. Before we get started, I have a question. Are you wondering, what should I do with my wedding rings after divorce? If so, I want to highly recommend MJ Gable Diamond and Fine Jewelry Buyers. I have known Matt and Ann Gable, the founders of MJ Gable, since 2011 when I sold my wedding rings to them. I found them online, took a chance, I mailed them my rings. Well, they actually send you an insured envelope to send your jewelry into them. And I took a chance and it turned out so wonderful. And since then, their business has exploded. They're doing so well and we've kept in touch. And they are now a Divorced Girl Smiling trusted professional. Love Matt and Ann. I trust them so much. If you want to learn more, go to mjgable.com. I also want to tell you about the newest Divorced Girl Smiling trusted professional. Her name is Renee Reed, and she's a divorce attorney and a partner for Remley Law in Neenah, Wisconsin. Renee has been practicing divorce law for over 20 years, and she handles complex, high-asset divorce. She provides superior counsel and support to clients across the Fox Cities region and surrounding areas. I love Renee. I'm so happy to have her in the Divorced Girl Smiling Network. I really trust her. If you want to learn more, you can find her on the Remley Law website, which is remleylaw.com, or in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. When I was going through my divorce, I remember reaching a point where I felt like it was really happening. We were really into it. My life was sort of revolving around messages from my lawyer a lot, court appearances, orders, and it felt like I was really in the trenches of divorce. And I could have used the podcast discussion we're going to have today, and that's why we decided to have it. We're going to give you some legal tips if you're in the thick of the divorce. Now, if you're not in the thick of the divorce, this will help you also, because at some point you're going to be, if you're thinking about getting divorced or you're at the beginning of it. So my guest is Theresa Viera. Theresa is a family law attorney and the founder of her practice, Modern Legal. She's based in North Carolina. She's been an attorney for 13 years. Her cases are a combination of mediation, litigation, and everything in between, some friendly, some higher conflict. So, hi, Theresa.
Hi, Jackie. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being on the show. I'm really looking forward to this conversation because I think that when you're in the trenches of divorce, it's never too late to get tips and have as much knowledge and information in your arsenal so that you can get a really good outcome, which is really the mission of Divorced Girl Smiling. And I think of your practice too.
Yeah, I would agree, Jackie. And I feel like sometimes you're living not only day to day, but minute to minute. And you're thinking of so many things while also trying to maintain a household, probably a job, and probably your own sanity. So I hope these legal tips are helpful for the listener.
I think they will be, Theresa, knowing you. Okay, the first tip that we want to offer everybody listening is, don't be discouraged if at certain times during the divorce your lawyer is not responding to you. And I want to tell everybody that you wrote this article for Divorce Girl Smiling called Why is My Lawyer Not Responding? Now, Theresa, you probably wrote the article because people will say that to you like, "Hey, I emailed you like 10 minutes ago," and they think
Yeah.
you're gonna hear back.
Yep.
And I understand that mentality, but tell me what's really going on behind the scenes and that I think you're gonna say like that your lawyer knows you emailed them, your lawyer's not blowing you off, your lawyer's not too busy for you. Tell me about that.
Sure, Jackie. This is a great topic because I can understand when something feels like an emergency and you're having a very visceral emotional reaction to a situation. You want to get in touch with help immediately, and maybe you've been relying on your attorney as that stopgap, as the emergency person, go to person. And trust me, as a family law attorney, especially when I have my child abuse and domestic violence situations. We do want to be there for attorneys at any minute needed. The reality is, though, is as attorneys, we have many obligations. We have more than one client. I'll just say, on average, the attorneys at my firm can have anywhere from 20 to 50 cases at any given time, sometimes more or less, depending on how large the case itself is. And at the end of the day, when an attorney is told to be in a courtroom or is scheduled to be at a mediation, that's where that attorney wants to focus their efforts and time because that is what that client needs at that moment. With that stated, especially with our larger law firms out there, generally a law firm will have some type of structure that if you do need a more immediate response, then contact your law firm in any means necessary. So, for example, I encourage my clients to email me because even if I'm in court, maybe I'm just waiting for my case to be heard. And although I can't answer my phone or receive a phone call, if you email me, I might be able to respond during a 15-minute break from a court session. On the flip side, if you want to talk to someone, generally, a law firm will have a phone number that you can call. Now, I have witnessed, and this is the case for my law firm, generally you won't get an attorney immediately on the phone line when you dial that number, and that's intentional because the attorneys do want to focus on any and all of the needs of their clients' cases. So they're not just sitting next to a phone waiting for the next phone call. Nor do you, as a possible client, want that because you want your attorney to be experienced in family law cases, working the cases and actually focused on the law, not necessarily sitting next to a phone.
Okay,
But there's other team.
I was just about to say, right when you were saying that, I would rather hire an attorney who is working 20 to 50 cases than one who has 3 cases because I know that it's a good attorney if they're that busy. Now, there's another part of me that says, well, is my case going to get buried if I'm one of 50 cases somebody's working on? Tell me how you answer that.
Sure. Trust me, there are law firms out there that attorneys have a lot more than 50. I mean, I've had cases actually upwards of over 90 to 100 at a given time. And I will admit, I had to find my sweet spot where I wanted to always provide each and every client quality services while also maintaining a busy caseload. Because if you're not practicing, you're not learning as an attorney. And if you're not learning and continuing to grow as a legal practitioner, then you're not doing your clients justice. And to your point, Jackie, I want to be in front of as many judges as possible. I want to be studying different laws and different fact patterns because that only benefits all of my clients now and in the future.
Okay, now the other thing I was going to say is you can only speak for the way that you return messages. Like all of this
Sure.
is what you're saying, like, hey, send me an email. Maybe I'm in court waiting for the judge to come in and I can quickly look at my emails and I see, like, oh, there's an email from Jackie. If I was your client. And, but don't you think that if people are listening to this and they feel frustrated, maybe in the subject line of the email, put important so that your attorney will read it, and know that it's priority. And if it isn't, if you don't put important, maybe it's something that you don't care if it takes a day or 2 to get a response back.
Hmm. I don't know. I think it depends on the attorney. So I think maybe a good strategy could be that, or it could also be sitting down with your attorney when you are able to sit down with them and clarify how that attorney best responds. I'll be honest, when I sit down and look at my emails, I first look for any and all emails from clients. Period. And that's to take priority over someone trying to sell me something. Jackie, no offense, even the emails from you, I prioritize my clients over. So there are different ways and different manners that attorneys balance their communications with their clients. So I think that would be a good conversation starter. Really, actually, at the consultation, let alone during the representation itself.
So, so important. You're listening to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. Today, I'm here with divorce attorney Theresa Viera, the founder of Modern Legal, based in North Carolina. Theresa has been a divorce attorney for 13 years. She's an arbitrator, certified mediator, and just a wonderful person. Teresa and I are giving legal tips for those in the thick of it. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we have 4 more tips, and they are really good. The next one has to do with allowing yourself to get your name back if you want. We'll be right back. When it comes to high conflict divorce, trying to co parent productively for your kids is challenging. And I can't think of a better coach than Sherry Morris to help you with these issues. Whether you and your ex decide to see Sherry as a couple to learn co parenting skills, or you want to go see Sherry by yourself to deal with a difficult ex, Sherry truly shines in changing your life and your kids' lives for the better. I've known Sherry for a few years now. She's a former practicing attorney. She has one of the best reputations in the coaching industry, and she's been doing this a really long time. So when you think of Sherry, think of high conflict and co-parenting. If you want to learn more, you can find her on her website at deardivorcecoach.com. I also want to tell you about a wonderful team of real estate agents in the Chicagoland area, specifically the city, the North Shore, and some of the other suburbs. Tammy Levy and Debbie Glickman both have so many years of experience, and they are the co-founders of Glickman Levy Residential. I have to say, I've known these women for several years. Debbie, I've known for almost 20. Tammy, I've known for several years. They're amazing. They're so dedicated. They're full of energy. They are so compassionate. They're so much fun. They will make your experience so positive. I just can't think of anyone, if I was going through a divorce, who I'd like to be around more than them. If you want to learn more, you can find them on their website at atproperties.com/site/Glickman Levy Residential. And you can find both Glickman Levy and Sherry Morris in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. Welcome back to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. And today we are talking about legal tips. We're offering legal tips for people who are in the thick of their divorce. My guest is Theresa E. Viera. Theresa is a divorce attorney, an arbitrator, a certified mediator, and the founder of Modern Legal, her North Carolina-based legal practice. And it's modernlegalnc.com if you want to learn more. Okay, Theresa, second tip, which I gave before the break, was give yourself the option of getting your name back. Now, tell me how you do that and why. What if somebody is like, oh, I don't want to get my name back? Don't you want to make sure that if you change your mind, you have the option?
Yes, I agree, Jackie. Especially with a number of females specifically changing their names when they get married. And then the reality that generally the children take the last name of the father. There is the option to get a name change back to your name, specifically here in North Carolina, through the divorce process. And you do want to make sure your attorney knows about that because it can be included. again, at least in North Carolina, in the divorce judgment itself. Now, I will note though, if you are at the point where maybe you don't want your name changed yet, maybe you still want to keep the same last name as your spouse while the children are minors or while you're effectuating certain property dealings, then you can keep your name here in North Carolina. And I believe it's probably similar in other states. But there is the process of then getting your name changed back to your maiden name after the divorce judgment has been entered. And here in North Carolina, it's actually a very easy process. It's actually a form that you file with the civil clerk of court with your certified copy of your divorce judgment, and you can change your name back.
Okay, so I want to tell everybody listening what happened to me because this is really important. And I think I had a good lawyer because, well, I had my issues, but, and this is before I knew any DGS trusted professional lawyers, by the way. This is in 2008. And I did have a couple issues, but one good thing that he did was he said, let's file this thing as part of the agreement. Not file, I don't know what the terminology is, but he said, let's put it in the decree that you have the right to change your name back at any time. Now, I don't know why that's even has to be like okayed by my ex-husband. Like, I don't even get it. But I guess in Illinois, that's the law. Like, it has to be in your decree that you want to change your name back at some point. And I was like, well, I haven't really thought about it. And he's like, let's put it in. So then, like 4 years later, I decided, you know what? I think I want to change my name back. And it was so easy because it was already in the decree and all I had to do when I was going to like the social security place and the driver's license place is show them the signed page of the divorce decree that showed my married name to my name that I wanted to get back. And so I think when I was there, there was I think it was at the DMV, the lady goes to me, boy, you're so lucky because I got divorced and I didn't have it in my decree. And then I had to like jump through hoops to change my name back. Now, maybe it's different in North Carolina, but
Yeah.
ever hear stories like that?
Luckily not here in North Carolina because in fact it is so simple. But I could definitely see it being different from state to state and the process being a little different state to state.
Yeah. But just for people listening, if you think you want to give yourself the option, tell your lawyer now so that your lawyer can put it in the decree that you might or might not change your name back in the future.
Yep.
Okay. Next tip is, oh, this is a good one. This is Teresa's. Be careful of experts. And I'm saying that with the quotes. I'm quoting with my fingers. So, what does that mean? Like everyone online is a divorce expert trying to give advice, right?
Yes, yes. When I hear clients, friends, neighbors, strangers on the street saying, "Oh, they're going through a divorce." It's almost like people jump out of the woods even, and everyone has something to share and everyone has a tidbit of advice. And that's not to say that people aren't trying to help. It's just suddenly there's so many experts that I have seen clients time and time again kind of lose track of where to go because they have so many people speaking in their ear and not really following the guidance of those experts that are actually helping them in their specific situation. So, for example, I've had the client who says, well, my cousin got a divorce in New Jersey 20 years ago. And I'm like, well, I've never met your cousin. I'm sure they're a nice person. New Jersey is a different state than North Carolina, and 20 years ago, I mean, the laws have changed in every state in 20 years. I've had the situation with religious leaders and pastors and other folks that people rely on for emotional and religious support. And their hearts are definitely in a good place. And they may be trying to save the relationship or save some type of amicable relationship between parents or parishioners. But at the end of the day, they're still not legal professionals. So be careful taking legal advice from someone who's not a lawyer. Go one step further, your lawyer is not a certified divorce financial analyst. or a realtor. So maybe you also don't want to rely on your lawyer for some things and some questions that should go to the respective expert.
Okay, so you read my mind because I was gonna say, all the buzz now when someone's getting divorced is like, get a divorce team. You need a team of people. I believe that's true. And but remember that your divorce attorney is your legal go-to. So if somebody says like, I've heard a lot of people say things like, "Oh, well, you must have a bad attorney because I know so and so got a lot more money." Okay, this person doesn't know either person's situation. They don't know the judge. They don't know what state they're in. They don't know the two lawyers. They don't know anything. So if you trust your divorce attorney, this is easy. If you're having doubts, change your attorney. That's
Mhm.
that's what I say. If you're having doubts and you don't really believe in the competency of your attorney any longer, then you might need to shop around. But your divorce attorney, when it comes to anything legal, they're the go-to. So don't listen to people who will say, "You could probably get a lot more money. What's wrong with your divorce attorney?" And if you want to ask your divorce attorney, that's an example of a non-urgent email that you can send your attorney. You get an answer in a couple days and you can decide, do you like the way the attorney answered it? Does it make sense to you? So I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, Teresa, do you ever get emails from people saying like, "My cousin got so much more child support than me.
Yeah.
Why is that?" I could
Yeah.
see that happening.
I see that happening all the time, especially in child support. And although I'm only licensed in North Carolina, I can point out, for example, in Texas, there's an upper limit to child support. So someone in Texas may not actually get the same amount of child support as they would in North Carolina simply because North Carolina does not have an upper limit. In North Carolina, also, child support is based on number of overnights, whereas in California, it's based on number of hours with the child. So yet another reason that child support may and possibly will be different because of the different state laws.
Okay, and you also, how about the person who has like this large amount of child support and or alimony? Maybe they gave more of the house, more of
Very
the
true.
assets to the other person. Like you don't even know. It's so complicated and there are countless factors. Also, maybe I know a woman who got divorced and her husband cheated on her and the husband felt so guilty that he gave her the most amazing divorce package or whatever you wanna call it. Like, I think that's really I'm not saying, "Oh, the guy's such a great guy," but, like, that wasn't a really classy thing to do from somebody who did a not so good thing, but you might look at that woman and say, "Wow, why did she get that and I didn't?" Because she decided to jump at the chance when he felt guilty at the beginning to take what he offered. It was a very smart decision
Mhm.
because more time that goes by, the guy starts to feel less guilty. Tensions rise, conflict comes up. The wife goes from being weepy to, okay, I'm empowered, I'm tough. Now I'm ready to face this divorce. So
Yep.
there's so many different things.
And I'll just plug one additional factor here, and it's, the lawyers that may be listening could probably nod along, is legal exposure. Now, we try to keep everything as private as possible, and there could be things stated behind closed doors and protected by attorney-client privilege that only the attorney and that client will ever know of. And part of the reason we negotiate a resolution is because we do not want legal exposure as it relates to possibly anything else. Now, I'm not
Um,
necessarily saying anything illegal, which that might be a situation, but it could also be just details that we don't want to be publicized or out there.
Mhm. Makes so much sense. All right, we have 2 tips left. The first one is remember that you're not at war. So Teresa, do people who are your clients go in thinking like, "Okay, I'm ready for this fight." And does it really have to be a fight? Like, isn't there any cases that can actually be somewhat not I'm not gonna say you're gonna be best friends, but you're not at war, right?
Yeah. Well, I think we should remember how we got here. All family law situations start out because we've created a family at some point or another. There was a loving and amicable relationship at some point that led to the connection. Now, granted, it could have been a one night stand and now you have a child together and you have a child custody action, but more likely than not, it is likely a relationship, a romantic relationship, a marriage, a choice to bring together two lives and create a marital estate and create a family with children, a dog, and everything else that comes with creating a family. And yeah, we're going through the uncoupling process, if you will. And so when you believe that you are in a war zone and you're ready to start slinging mud, you've created more of a tension filled family situation. And that generally serves no one's interests. And particularly for children, they end up being the unintended victims of a nasty divorce.
And really this is the best advice that I can give is it's like you're almost expected to treat it like a war. Cause like even if you say to someone, I'm getting divorced, they'll be like, ooh, is everything okay?
Yeah.
Or like, ooh, is your husband being a total jerk? What's he like? I never liked that guy anyway. And, it doesn't have to be that way. It's like, okay, we're both devastated. We're devastated for the kids, but it's almost like instead of viewing it as a fight or a war or a battle, view it as, okay, we're working to come up with a solution that works for us and our kids. And that, so we can all move on and we can stay amicable, friendly, not best friends, but polite, kind, and that's when the kids really thrive, when their parents I know that I have 2 kids who are 21 and 23, and it still makes them cringe when they know their dad and I are not really getting along. If we're friends and he comes over and we're like, "Hey," they're so happy,
Yep.
and they're adults. So
Yep.
this goes for kids of all ages.
I completely agree, Jackie. And the studies actually back exactly what you're saying is that if we can keep things as amicable as possible, and you're right, you don't have to be best friends, but the more civil you are with the other parent, specifically in child custody situations, the better the children will be. And this is indicative when children start exhibiting certain problems like ADHD in school or they're regressing. And we want to make sure that we maintain that amicable situation for as long as possible and hopefully the rest of your lives because if you have children together you're going to be in each other's lives the rest of your lives. Now I will note here, just a side note, the legal system, if you file a lawsuit, is built to be adversarial, and that stems from the fact that divorce used to be illegal. We kind of forget that, and divorce has been granted through different statutory rights because it's not a constitutional right. And so states do allow for divorce now, but that does not mean that the government and the judicial system is the place for your divorce, since you can be a lot more creative outside of the courtroom.
I absolutely love that. That is such good advice. Okay, we have time, not much, but for the last tip, which is in all of your divorce agreements, specifics are your friends. That was written by Teresa. Tell me
Yes.
about that.
Sure. So I like to encourage all of my clients to look at their agreement, whether it's a parenting agreement, a property agreement, and so forth, to be that fallback position when the two individuals disagree. And that isn't to say that, okay, let's say one spouse gets the car and they're supposed to have it by Friday, but then the other spouse is like, oh, I need to transport this heavy couch. Can I use the car for one more day? Of course, the two parties can agree to alter that agreement. And instead of on Friday, the person gets it on Saturday, just fine. However, when it comes to trying to have legally enforceable documents, it's a little bit different of a tune if the Friday deadline is missed and suddenly 2, 3, 4, 5 months have passed. And if that agreement didn't have a specific deadline in it, then it's a lot harder to enforce and sometimes impossible to enforce. So, in an agreement, you want things as specific as possible. This going one step further, this applies to parenting agreements as well or consent orders. So, for example, your consent order can say that you have a specific date and time for exchanging the children. Of course, accidents happen, people run late from work. Maintain that amicable attitude as much as possible, but that's very different than being 2, 3, 4 days late for the exchange, and suddenly children are missing out on valuable time with the other parent, especially if they don't have an enforceable written agreement.
Okay, what you're saying makes me believe, well, I thought this before the podcast, but you are a very good lawyer because you are so right. Like if you don't have specifics or your lawyer's not being specific on things, that's not good because that allows you no recourse. You always have to think like, well, what if this happens? Well, what if this happens, right? I mean, isn't that what they teach you in law school to come up with like every possible scenario? I'm
Yep.
gonna give my listeners another example. So, like, if we are renting if you're renting a house, in our agreement, it states that we have to pay by the 5th of the month, and if we don't well, it says the rent is due on the 1st of the month. Now, let's say you're out of town and the 1st starts on a Saturday or Sunday, so you pay Monday, like today was Monday the 2nd. Well, let it says if you don't pay by the 5th, you have a 10% penalty. If you don't pay by the 10th, it's a 20%. So see how there's specifics in there that give people incentive to stick to the agreement because if not, they're held accountable. And that really is a sign of a good lawyer putting together your agreement.
I agree. And honestly, when agreements lack specificity, that tends to lead to more turmoil that could have been completely avoided. Because generally, when that agreement has been put in place, the parties are in an amicable situation and they are in agreement. So, why not get everything that's agreed to in the paperwork?
Teresa, thank you so much for taking time to be on the show. This was a really good discussion, and I bet you there's so many people listening who are feeling a lot better because they're in the trenches of divorce and it can feel overwhelming and just almost hopeless that it's never going to end. But I think you answered some really, really good questions and gave some great advice.
Always a pleasure, Jackie. Thank you for having me.
And to my listeners, if you want to reach Teresa or call her for a consult, if you live in North Carolina, go to modernlegalnc.com or you can find her in the trusted professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling at divorcedgirlsmiling.com. And you can also go to Divorced Girl Smiling to listen to more podcasts, read articles, or sign up for my free consult. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you real soon.